Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about the Greatsword, which is the newest weapon in New World. So it's been a while since I talked about New World, but this weapon is so interesting and I just have to talk about it because it's basically the weapon I've been waiting for. I even tweeted New World day one when the game came out and I said, you need to add a two-hand sword, and if it comes, I'm gonna play again. And look at me, I'm back because they actually added the two-hand sword, the Claymore, the Greatsword. As you can see, my character right now has it on and it looks amazing. And don't worry, you're not gonna always hold the weapon like this. You're actually gonna hold the weapon in 3 different ways depending on what you're doing. But let's talk about it. So when you open up your weapon mastery, you will see on the two-handed we have a new weapon now called Greatsword. So let's go into it. The Greatsword has 2 different, you can say, talent trees, which is called Onslaught and Defiance. Defiance is all about tankiness, protection, counting attacks, you know, very defensive, taunting, AoE damage, where Onslaught is all about killing. The very cool thing about this is every time you use an ability in either Onslaught or Defiance, you're getting a stance, basically a buff for 10 seconds, and basically it's a stance, you could say, like warriors from other games where you go into berserking stance or some, you know, the stances warriors can go into. It's the same here. For example, on Onslaught, after using an ability in the Onslaught tree, enter Onslaught stance for 10 seconds. And so that means if you use any of the abilities you have over here, which is, I'm sorry, I forgot to close this. So if you use any ability over here on Onslaught, so you can see like this Relentless Rush, Crosscut, or Skyward Slash, then you will enter Path of Onslaught, which is Onslaught Stance. Onslaught Stance has the following properties: outgoing damage plus 15 increased. Damage taken increased by 15%. So you actually deal 15% more damage and you also take 15% more damage. So, you know, it's a give-win situation, like win-trade situation. Also, quick charge. Heavy attacks can charge twice as fast, but consume 10 stamina each. So, which is also a pretty cool thing. So you can see this is all about dealing more damage, but with the cost of actually also taking more damage, which can be risky. Then you have the Defiance stance over here, which after using ability in the Defiance tree, which is these 3 abilities, Steadfast Strike, Calamity Counter, and Roaring Rupture, you will enter Defiance stance for 10 seconds. What happens then is damage taken and that outgoing damage is reduced by 15%, which means that all the damage you take and all the damage you give is reduced by 15%. So you can see it's basically the same as the Defiance, or sorry, the Onslaught, but it's just other way. This one is, you know, increasing and this one is decreasing or reducing. But it also has guard point, which is block incoming attacks while charging heavy attacks, which is also pretty cool because instead of just like blocking all the time, you can actually charge your heavy attack and then you block at the same time. This is insane. It makes you can actually deal insane damage and at the same time blocking attacks, which is really cool. But let's go through these talent trees and see what actually happens. Let's start with Onslaught, where we will test the 3 abilities. After that, we're actually gonna like go a bit more into the, you can say, passive talent tree. But let's start with Onslaught. So Onslaught has the first ability called Crosscut, slash 3 times in a quick sequence. First hit, 110% weapon damage. Second hit, 130% weapon damage. Third hit, 160% weapon damage. And then you enter Onslaught stance. Let's test that spell. So we have, again, it's called the Onslaught, the Crosscut. There you go. So that was the Crosscut. Now you can see I am in the stance, which comes with this talent tree. And you can see now he starts holding the weapon like this. All the different stances, or well, the 2 stances, is holding the weapon differently. So you can actually see on the player which stance he is in. Let's try Crosscut again. Pretty good damage, and then you enter the stance, which you can see here. No, you can't see it that way, but you can see the stance, and it kind of left it. Let's go back to the Greatsword. Then we have Relentless Rush, dash through foes while spinning and apply a 20% slow for 4 seconds on hit. First hit 100% weapon damage, second hit 120% weapon damage. This attack cannot backstab. Enter Onslaught stance. Awesome, let's try it. So basically a blade storm, but you're also moving at the same time, which is pretty cool. You can like use it for either escaping or actually dealing damage and killing, which is great. So you have like the crosscut and then the rush, which is having a longer cooldown, which we can't use. We can use it in 2 seconds, 1 second, and let's use it one more time. Boom, boom. Great spell, great spell. Then we also have Skyward Slash. Swing up in a brutal arc, staggering your target, dealing 8% weapon damage and applying 2 stacks of 5% rend for 10 seconds. Max 3 stacks. In Onslaught stance, apply 1 additional rend. Enter Onslaught stance when disability ends. So basically this spell is entering you in Onslaught stance, but at the same time it will deal, if you already are in Onslaught stance, you will give another rend at the same time. But let's see. So we have the spell on F. Let's try it out. There you go. So that was it. That was like, that was actually it. So again, it deals not that much damage, but it gives a, you know, a rend, and then it enters your stats. So this is the spells by default. Let's now see what happens when you actually improve these spells, because it actually changed a lot. Because right now you probably thought this Skyward Slash is useless, maybe? No. Because the next one here, add a follow-up attack that deals 140% weapon damage by activating the skill again or using a light attack. So basically you can double press it like FF or F and then left click on your mouse. Also we can add the first attack applies disease, which reduces healing by 20% for 10 seconds. The follow-up attack strikes all foes within a 3-meter radius, which is making it basically an AoE spell now. So now you can see when, okay, the spell is not ready. It's there we go. Okay, it's bugging. You can see the timer in the right corner is saying for 8.9 seconds. But we're just going to wait these 10 seconds. So you will be seeing now I will be doing an F and I will be clicking F again. So you can see here. And it's supposed to deal this AoE damage also. There we go. F, F, boom. Strong spell, very strong spell. And it feels really good. Like it feels so good to do a crosscut. Then the rush, and then the big, like, I have to keep the names. Skyward Slash. Let's try it again. F, F. Oh yeah, it feels good. Then we can upgrade Relentless Rush, and now one of the best things comes. So you gain 10% in power for 10 seconds after using your rush. Then you can also increase it so that in Onslaught stance, Relentless Rush applies a root. So basically, which means if you are in this DPS mode, it will give root. So you will basically root your enemy, which is nice. But if you are in Defiance stance while using the spell, because you can mix the spells, it will actually heal. Relentless Rush heals for 50% of its damage, max 5 hits, which is insane. So if you go first into like the Path of Defiance, which using kind of one of the defense spells, and then use after that Relentless Rush, you're healing, which is insane. Then we can also reduce ability cooldown by 50% when you kill a foe, which is also pretty good. So it doesn't really do much difference right now, unless it will actually give me the buff. So you can see I have the Empower buff now for 10 seconds, which is great. So, and then we also have the crosscut, which is here. Unstoppable cuts gain grit while performing crosscut. And Defiance stance gains stun immunity while performing crosscut. So basically, if you just do it normally, it will give you grit, but if you are over in Defiance stance while using this spell, it will also give you stun immunity. That's pretty cool. Also, base damage of the final strike is increased by 100% if the target is below 50% health. In Onslaught stance, this threshold is increased by 75 instead. So that's actually a bummer, because if you are already in the damage stance, it's gonna give you less damage, but I think it's because of the already increased 50%. But if you're gonna do it then over in Defiance stance, it's gonna then give you those 100% more damage, which is cool. It's still gonna deal a lot more damage. So the damage numbers is now like, yeah, there we go, big numbers, big numbers. What else do we have? Then we also have the ultimate. I don't know if people actually call it an ultimate, but the ultimate we have over here is called Unrelenting Onslaught. Hitting foes reduce Greatsword cooldowns. So light attack 2%, charge heavy attack 10%. So basically all my cooldowns will now reduce. So if I, for example, use my F spell, and then I keep attacking, it will actually help by making the cooldown lower. And if I use recharge spells, you can see there, boom, look at that. It's taking like 2 seconds away every time. So I can literally use my F spell and then hold down my charge attack, and look at that, the cooldown is going off so fast, which is insane. Then we also have other passives in here. Let's just go through them. Giant Slayer, increase base attack damage by 20% when attacking foes above 90% health, which is great as a starter. Charge heavy attacks have 50% more armor penetrations. Gain a 20% haste for 5 seconds after using any Onslaught tree abilities. That's nice, haste is always good. After gaining Onslaught stance, your next attack within 5 seconds has 100% increased critical chance. Wow. That is, that's pretty good. That's like really good. That's like, after gaining Onslaught stance, your next attack within 5 seconds. That's really good. Like, that's actually, you can see now I have it on, so if I use this one, it should apply it, but it applies it again. Wow, that's actually insane. So it basically means if you use all your abilities after each other, they're gonna like 100% crit. That's insane. Wow, okay, that's really good. We like that one. Enter Onslaught stance by hitting with a heavy charge attack. So basically now you can enter the Onslaught stance by just using heavy attacks, which is also great. Then we have become energized by landing a critical hit and regain 5 stamina and 5% base health per second for 5 seconds. So basically, this is like so freaking overpowered. You become energized by landing a critical hit and regain 5 stamina and 5 base health per second for 5 seconds. But the effect has 10-second cooldown, so every time you enable this, it's also going to be on cooldown. Which means, basically, when you are using a spell, you get 100% crit after that. So now when I'm going to use it, it's actually going to pop on, and it's going to start healing, which is... That's pretty strong. So you actually going to have a pretty strong self-healing in this spec. I could see this really go well if you take like Defiance tree for tanking, and then you also take this one here for like having a bit like additional healing. Also this one here. So like if you go for this one, Relentless, this is like the healing spells you want. Then we have critical hit chances increased by 100 when attacking foes with a debuff. And last one, after dodging, gain 10% in power for the next 3 hits within 10 seconds. This effect only occurs when in combat. Attacks empowered by this effect restore 10 stamina on hit. Cool. So this is basically the Onslaught tree. Now we have seen everything about the damage tree. Now it's over to the Defiance tree, which is the you can say the more tankiness tree, which is also using your taunt abilities. So for example here, block for 2 seconds, calamity counter. Block for 2 seconds while reducing block stamina. While reducing block stamina taken by 90%, then unleash a counter attack that strikes all foes within a 4-meter radius. If you don't block any damage, you're gonna deal 100% damage. If you're gonna block one block of damage, it's gonna increase your weapon again also by 100, but you're gonna also give staggers. And 2 blocks is same damage but longer staggers. And then 3 blocks is gonna give you 100% weapon damage also, but it's gonna give knockback to everyone around you, which is insane. This ability has Grit. Grit prevents you from being staggered by incoming attacks. Reactivating this ability or use a light attack to counter attack earlier. So you don't have to like sit 2 seconds and actually counter, you can also use it out faster. And then you will enter the Defiance stance. So let's try that spell out. So you can see here, I'm gonna counter, and then I can use it again and attack. And depending on how many attacks you have allowed counter. And now you can see, because we are in this new stance, which is Defiance stance, you can see we are holding the weapon differently. So people can see if you're holding your weapon like Tryndamere from League of Legends, where you're like dragging your sword after you, then you're basically in the Onslaught stance, which means you're about to deal a lot of damage. If you're holding your weapon like this, it means you are in the Defense stance and you're all about like not dealing that much damage, but you're gonna be like, I'm gonna tank you stuff. Okay. So next spell is Roaring Rupture, and is the first spell that actually uses Taunt. So you can see Taunt Gem competition. If you have Carlion Gem equipped, your Greatsword disability inflict taunts for 8 seconds to all enemies hit. So basically this is your AoE taunt spell. So when you use this spell, it's also gonna taunt all the enemies. If you have the taunt the taunting gem, as you can see I have here. Taunts are active, you generate 300% more threat, and also it will activate your taunt spells. So what does it actually do? Stab the ground and send out a shockwave with a 4 meters radius that deals 120% weapon damage and gain 8% 45 for 5% for 5 seconds for each foe hit. And it has up to 3 stacks as a maximum. This ability generates 200% threat and has grit. And then also you enter Defiance Stance. So let's try it out. So we're gonna try it. Boom. There you go. And it's great, so everyone who gets hits is going to get taunted and damage it, it's a great spell. I will see this as a tank. It's going to be a lifesaver for you. Then we have the next one, Steadfast Strike. Stab your greatsword forward to impale your foes, then pull back to rip the blade out, restoring 20 stamina on each hit. First hit, 70% of weapon damage and staggers. Second hit, 120% weapon damage and pulls target 1.5 meter toward you. This ability generates 150% threat and also enters Defiance Stance. So again, you can see another spell which is increasing your threat. So let's try it. Boom, boom. Nice spell. And boom, and I'll counter. So it's a nice tree. It's a really different. I would say both trees are very different, but all the spells are very cool. Let's see what happens when we upgrade these spells. So first of all, your counter spell here. Jack counter attacks and bleeding for 6 seconds for each power level. Each stack deals 5% weapon damage every second, max 5 stacks, which is insane. So this build, and this is a secret behind this build, it deals a lot of bleeding damage, which is pretty cool. Then also, counterattack crit chance is increased by 25%. In Onslaught stance, the counterattack gains an additional 25 critical hit chance, which is pretty cool. So if you are in DPS stance and you use the counter spell, you're going to have 50% increased crit chance when you're doing the damage. In Defiance stance, the counterattack heals for 20% of its damage. So if you are in the tank, the Defiance stance, which is the tanking one, then you're actually going to heal 20% of the damage up to max 5 hits. So no really changes in how it looks, but still it's going to do something different depending on which stance you are in, and also it's going to apply bleeding. Didn't it say that? Yo, it said here, counterattack inflict bleeding. So I'm not sure we actually could see that on the map, but there we go. Good. Then we have the next spell, which is Steadfast Strike. In the first strike of Steadfast Strike hits, you are healed for 50% of the weapon damage, which is insane. And Defiance Stance, the first strike also inflicts 2 stacks of bleeding for 6 seconds, which deal 5% weapon damage every second, max 5 stacks. So again, a bleeding and bleeding, just like bleeding everywhere. If the second strike of Steadfast Strike hits, reduce the cooldown of all greatsword abilities by 20%. Wow, 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 wow. So we're gonna try that. Boom, boom. And now it's gonna bleed. It doesn't seem like these dummies can actually bleed. Because, oh wait, no, it actually said you had to be in that stance, didn't it? Yeah, you have to be in the stance. So okay, so we're gonna enter the stance. There we go. Now we are in the tank stance, Defiance, and now we're gonna use it. There we go. Now it's bleeding. That was much better. Yeah, there we go. Bleed. Dull. Okay, and then we have our AoE spell, Roaring Rupture. Cleans 2 debuffs after using Roaring Rupture, which is always nice. The shockwave applies a 10% weaken for 10 seconds on hit. Additionally, after a successfully hit, become interruptible for 5 seconds. And also, in Defiance stance, the shockwave pushes foes outward 3 meter. In Onslaught stance, the shockwave pulls foes 3 meter towards you. So in the DPS stance, Onslaught, you're gonna pull enemies to you, but in the tank stance, you're gonna push them away. Which I guess normally should be the other way around, or maybe not. I guess it's like situation-wise, but I don't think it's gonna look differently. I think it had a bit more glowing. And then we have the ultimate, Undying Defiance. Heals 5% of the damage from attacks. Heal 5% of the damage from attacks. Attacking within 3 seconds of blocking heals for 50% of the damage dealt instead. Attacking within 3 seconds of blocking heals for 15% of the damage instead. That's actually pretty cool. So like every time you do a blocking, attacking within 3 seconds of blocking heals for 15% of the damage deal instead. That's actually pretty cool. So like when you block a damage, then the next 3 seconds when you deal damage, you're gonna heal 50% of that damage. So you can see blocking in this tree is actually quite important since it's gonna increase your healing. What else do we have in this tree? If you're hit while full health, reduce damage taken by 20%, then gain 20% fortify. That's nice. Hitting with the final attack of the Greatsword chain, reduce the duration of debuffs on you by 10%. Base damage is increased by 3% for each Greatsword buff on you. After gaining Defiance stance, the next damage taken within 5 seconds is reduced by 25. Blocking for 2 seconds causes you to enter Defiance stance. Let's test that. I guess it has to be combat. Oh yeah, you must be in combat. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then this one here is actually really good too. Charge heavy attacks have grit and inflict bleeding for 6 seconds, dealing 5% weapon damage, max of 5 targets. So if we try that, so you can see every time now you are doing a charge attack, it's actually also going to bleed. So you can like keep heavy attacking and it will keep getting stacks of bleeding. You can see now we have 5 stacks on it. Yeah. Which is cool. And then my favorite one, which is arrow deflection. Enables blocking range attacks with a greatsword, but increase stamina damage from blocking any attacks by 10%. So now you will be able to block range attacks like arrows, bullets, spells. I'm not sure if actually spells, but range attacks with a greatsword, but increase stamina damage from blocking any attacks by 10. So you're gonna use more stamina now by blocking, but also you can actually block ranged, which is, I think it's a win-win. And then the last one, reduce stamina damage by 50% when blocking attacks just after raising your guard or with guard points. Inflicts a 5% rend for 10 seconds against melee attackers. Cool. So yeah, this is the Defiance tree, this is the Onslaught tree with a like offensive stance, defensive stance, and all that. So I think the Greatsword in this game has come perfectly out. So if someone from Amazon ever watched this video, you've done it perfectly. This tree is really good, and the weapon it just feels good. There's nothing bad about it. It just feels like a really great weapon. So thanks a lot for that. So thanks for watching, everyone. It was a pleasure making this video. This patch goes live on the 18th of October. So if you want to play the game and actually play with the new two-hand sword and also go to the new zone, which is called Brimstone Sands up here, Brimstone Sands, you can now, well, get excited for it because it will come out the 18th of October. So, and I'm still deciding if I should go tank two-hand sword or if I should go damage two-hand sword. Because what I have not told you yet is that this sword, bonus feature, is this sword actually scales with strength and dexterity equal. So you can see here that Greatsword scales evenly with this attribute. So it means it scales with strength and it scales with dexterity. Both of them. I should probably have told you this earlier in this video, but I kind of forgot. So it doesn't matter if you're going to go strength build or you're going to go dexterity build. So you can basically go with tanking weapons like a sword and shield and the two-hand sword, or you can go with dexterity build with a bow. It would scale the same. So it doesn't matter. Strength and dexterity is the same for a Greatsword, which is a pretty good note to know. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you in another video. Peace out.